How do you identify politically, and who did you vote for in the last election?
I am a Democrat, a lifelong Democrat, and the last election I voted for Biden.
Okay. Who did you vote for in the last election, and how do you identify politically?
I identify as an independent, and I'm left-leaning.
Okay. Ashley, how about you?
I would identify as a Democrat, and last election I voted for Biden.
Terry?
I identify as a Democrat, and I voted for Biden in the last election.
And Shelley?
I identify as a very, 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 very left-leaning Democrat, and I did vote for Biden in the last election.
Okay. So, show of hands, who is decided on who they're going to vote for in 2024? Okay, so 3 out of 5 of you. Why are you still undecided?
Because I want the candidate that I vote for to earn my vote. I think that in society right now, I've heard a lot of narrative around the blue no matter who, and I understand that narrative. However, I think that that's a failing narrative for the generations coming up, and I think that we need to shift society, that these politicians earn our vote and that they also work for us if we're willing to work for them.
What does a politician need to do in order to earn your vote?
For me specifically, as a worker inside of America, I just want them to not leave the middle class behind anymore. I feel like we've been left behind time and time again.
Terry, why are you undecided?
Well, unfortunately, I feel as though we have to participate in a two-party system, and I will not vote Republican. I just won't do it. And it feels as though it's the lesser of two evils. It's kind of like pick your poison. My values do not align with Republican values. They just don't. So I really don't know what I'm going to do. This last time I agonized when I was in the ballot box. The person that I wanted to be president, I just knew if I voted that way, it was a wasted vote or a vote for Trump, and I couldn't stomach that.
So, Terry, are you deciding between voting and not voting?
Absolutely not voting. I will vote. I will vote, and I will probably agonize again once I'm in the ballot box about what to do. How do I do this?
Mm-hmm. And Ashley, you have decided who you're going to vote for. Who are you going to vote for?
It's more like I've decided who I'm not going to vote for now that I think about it more.
Who are you not going to vote for?
I'm not going to vote for a Republican. I'm trans. I feel like that's almost like, it's almost like a death sentence. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to Democrats, I just don't really see anyone who really feels like they will be a strong pick who is running. I just cannot. Voting Republican would be voting against myself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So are you saying that you, at this point, are planning to vote for President Biden, but reluctantly?
Very reluctantly.
Why are you so reluctant, Ashley?
I like some of the things he's done, especially when it comes to union stuff, when it comes to some of his healthcare policies are pretty helpful, but it feels like a lot of the things that he has gotten that would be considered a win for me, it feels like any other president would have been forced to make those decisions because we got here because Trump was not going to be an option, and I feel like Biden only became the president last time because he was held up as the other option.
Jesse, let me go back to you. Are you deciding between voting and staying home, or will you definitely vote for someone?
Well, I would think it's very important to vote, period. So when I say this, I mean, like, I think that everybody should still vote. I just don't know if the very top of the ticket is something that everybody is willing to fill in at this time. And I say that knowing that, that there's repercussions to that, knowing that people have a right to feel the way they feel by saying, like, if you don't vote, then that means that's a vote for Trump. However, I think that right now we're in a situation where if we do vote for somebody, are we also saying that we're signing on to their ideologies and that we're endorsing these ideas that we don't actually agree with? And I agree when you say, like, I think that any president would have been forced to make some of the decisions that they were through the collective action of people. And I think that that's important. I think collective action is what makes us so strong. But I want to make sure that the candidate that I vote for earned my vote, and that, maybe like even their viewpoints on things like the conflict in the Middle East right now, I don't want to sign on to things that I don't agree with anymore.
Jackie, you voted for President Biden in 2020. You say you're certain of who you're going to vote for. Are you going to vote for President Biden again?
Yes.
Why?
I may not be as enthusiastic about him as a candidate, but I am by some of the things that he's done. Reducing insulin down to $35. Also, finally repairing our infrastructure. The American Care Act. I mean, it's a lot of things that he's done. And also, a lot of it with me goes along to how he supported the first black president. He supported President Obama when I think it was still a racial thing going on where we never had a black president, so a lot of people didn't feel as though he was qualified. Joe Biden, I'm sure, took a lot of slack from being his second-hand guy, and he supported him and held him up to the point that I think it changed some people's mind by the time of his end of his administration. That, along with the fact, this man, to me, feels like he has a heart. His opponent doesn't, to me, pretend to care. He doesn't give you the illusion that he's going to do things for you and your family. I mean, some of the things he says is just totally against the American way of the way we live. A president's supposed to support and supposed to represent everyone. You can't separate them from those that are brown people, those that are white people. You have to represent everyone. And if you're not willing to do that, you're not the president that needs to be.
Shelley, of course, we don't know who's going to win the GOP nomination yet, but if there is another Biden-Trump rematch, you say you're already confident of who you're going to vote for.
Yeah, if there's Biden-Trump, Biden, DeSantis, any Republican, there's no way I'm going to vote Republican. But reluctantly, yes, I will vote Biden.
Why reluctantly?
I really don't agree with his dealings with the Middle East right now. That weighs heavy on my heart. I can't support anyone who has a hand in any supporting of genocide. Even though it doesn't personally affect me, it does. I'm reluctant, also his age. I'm reluctant if something were to happen to him that people will not respect Kamala.
Absolutely not. I agree. They won't.
I personally, I like Kamala, and I pay attention and watch when people say she's not doing anything, and she is.
Yes.
But I fear that people, even the world, will not respect Kamala.
No.
And so we'll just kind of be stagnant. And these times, I feel like this, how you're saying, I feel like you're kind of getting at is such a good time for a third party to really come in strong when there is so many people like we're searching for something else. And it's like, why is that not happening?
Well, and I think you said something really important there where you're like, you feel like we would remain stagnant. I would argue that it feels stagnant right now.
It absolutely does. I agree.
I agree.
What about this point that you are making that she's concerned that if Vice President Harris were to become the president, that people wouldn't respect her? You suggested you agree with that.
She's brown and she's a woman. She will not get the respect that she deserves, that she's earned. From the beginning, she was not taken seriously. And that's personally, to me, that's offensive. And we are still complaining about having a black person in office, and there were so many people that couldn't wait for him to get out of office. So we went from having President Obama to the exact opposite. And I truly do not understand where that went. It seems to me when President Obama was in office that we had more unity, that we didn't have as much division, as much hatred. And I don't know, I will not say that Trump brought all that into office. Like, you can't put that all on one individual. However, he had a platform and a bullhorn, and there were so many people that were ready and willing to go along with his ideology and how we should run America like a business, Okay, well, America's not a business, it's a country, and there are people who live in this country. So it's, what are you running, the business, or are you running the people?
Jackie, what do you make of these concerns that everyone is saying about Vice President Harris?
I support her 100%. I think she'll be a great president.
Oh, absolutely.
We as women, and I'm sure even in the field that you're in, have never gotten the respect that we deserve as being intelligent and able to run this country. I tell everyone, take a look at Michigan. We're ran by women, and I'm proud of it. I'm extremely proud of our governor and all of those that's in Lansing that is doing things, because they come from an era where women are making advancement, but to me, not fast enough. And so when people say that they have a fear that maybe our vice president would not be able to step into the president role, I disagree with that. I would be more than happy to get out and support and work for her and help her to become the president of the United States, if that's what she wanted to do.
I want to follow up on something else that Shelley raised, which is this idea of a third-party candidate. Ashley, would you consider voting for a third-party candidate?
It all come down to who they are. I feel like I cannot remember the name, but there's a quote that America is a one-party nation, but in classic America excess, we have two of them. It feels like we already have been in a situation for the longest time where we have the Republican Party that is pushing things further right, and the Democratic Party just seems to be there to say, hey, this will be normal, you can stop this. If there was a third party that was pushing for more leftist like laws and everything, then of course I'd be way more interested.
Jesse, what about you? Would you support a third-party candidate or consider supporting a third-party candidate?
So I completely agree. It would depend on who that candidate is. However, I don't think that a two-party system is working for America anymore. So I think it's something that needs to be explored and thought about in society a lot more.
And Terry, would you consider voting for a third-party candidate?
I don't know. I don't know. I feel compelled to, but I really feel as though my vote will be just wasted. And my vote counts. It does. And I mean, we can talk about the electoral system and how that all works. Even that's outdated, and we do not want to change it. And we have to think about why we don't want to change it. Because the people that are in power still hold that power. And if you think about where this system originated, it was for what reason? To keep the people in power, for them to stay in power.
Jackie, weigh in here, because you've said you're very confident you're going to vote for President Biden.
I am.
When you hear the potential enthusiasm for a third-party candidate, does it make you nervous about President Biden getting reelected?
No, because the people that are speaking the highest, the people in office that are speaking the highest about a third party are people that can no longer escalate in the party they're in. So if your third party is going to be made up of the junk from the other two parties, I wouldn't vote for it. And when I say that, I mean people that could not
Get into the...
Exactly. Could not do what they want to, because then you're not really getting a third party. You're just getting the same thing, just a different title.
Yeah.
So that's
they're not even rebranding, which is...
So how do you know, my thing is, how do you create a third party with new people, new ideas, and also the power to make those ideas come true?
Shelley, what about you?
The power, yeah.
How do you see a third party?
As a dream, but not a reality.
Right.
I mean, in my ideal world, I see it as a party that is truly for the people, by the people. And I don't see people having that power, that respect. I would love to see it. I don't know who out there. I mean, I'd love to see AOC try to grab it, but
Very progressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not going to happen. Not in our lifetime.
No,
I don't believe we're going to see the Electoral College go in our lifetime or a third-party candidate be successful. It's not going to happen.
Because right now, like she said, it is just the people. It is the junk.
But when you say you don't see it, I believe differently.
Okay.
At one time, I didn't think I would ever see someone that looked like me sitting in the White House.
Okay.
So I never thought I would see a female get as close to the White House other than the spouse of the president. So I do believe that people like in her age group and your age group, the younger people, got to realize the power and that authority lies within them.
But our young people aren't voting.
But this is the reason why, because society is telling them your vote doesn't count. If you can prevent me from voting, you've already won. And that's what I tell the young people. Sometimes you have to make a decision that may not be the most favorable decision of what you want, but you have to make a decision to prevent something that you don't want. And I have voted that way numerous times. I voted for people not because I thought that they were the best candidate, but the alternative to them was much worse. And I think that's the way a lot of people are feeling with this election.
Let me follow up with you on that, Jackie. Are you concerned that people are going to stay at home and not vote in 2024? What are you hearing from the community around you?
Pretty much of what I said, that they're not enthusiastic about either candidates, but they don't want one or the other to get in. So they're going to vote against someone more so than voting for someone.
Shelley, what are you hearing? Are you concerned that people are going to stay home?
I'm concerned people are going to stay home.
Why?
It's a very mixed age group, so I'm almost 50, and it seems like people my age around me, they just kind of are fed up and want to stay home. And I don't like, they don't like their options. And this isn't people that I am real close to. My close to people, they're all voting. But they're not enthusiastic, but they also don't seem to see the ramifications of that. And like, you're so well-spoken. Can we get you guys to schools to talk to these kids?
Yeah.
Yeah. And to talk to people my age,
Jesse, what about you? Are you concerned about people staying home? Do you think that's a very real possibility in 2024?
I think it's an extremely real possibility.
Why do you think so?
Like I said, I just think people are very upset, and I think that they don't want to feed into an establishment anymore, and they're sick of working for people that won't work for them. And I think that, we are shifting as a society where we're refusing to endorse somebody that doesn't share our ideology anymore.
Ashley, what about you? Do you think people are going to sit out voting in 2024?
Well, as the youngest person here,
Says who? I am not 50.
Well, there are a lot of people who I know who are just completely checked out of the game. It feels like it's already lost, especially since I feel like for my generation, the last election felt like it was supposed to turn the tide. And it doesn't feel like it, like I've been saying actually this entire time, it feels like all we've done is put stopgaps in. It just, it doesn't feel like we're getting the progressive change that we were all sort of promised, because I remember the last election, all of the news was saying that healthcare is the issue. It is the thing that we're supposed to be dealing with. But no matter how highly popular a more universal form of healthcare is, it's still not been put in place. And if anything, we've put in place half measures that kind of feel like they're just meant to keep us from actually deciding to put in the full thing.
Terry, what do you make of what Ashley's saying?
That's a lot. I think maybe your concerns, although they're my concerns as well, I agree with we're not making the progress that was promised, and student loans come to mind, student loan forgiveness obviously come to mind. But I am not concerned about people staying at home and not voting. I'm going to assume that I'm the only Arab American secular Muslim here, and I maintain communication and ties to my community. And I can tell you this right now, they will show up. The Arab American community in this Tri-County area will show up, and they do not vote according to party. They are concerned because it's personal and because it affects them and it affects our fabric of society, who is in office, and what their interests are in the Middle East.
Jackie, what do you make of what Terry is saying and the fact that the Biden administration has said to Israel, you need to do more to protect civilian lives? Terry's saying there's not enough time to win back those votes. What do you make of that?
I have mixed feelings because during 9/11, when our land was attacked, when we lost so many people, I don't think there was a country on this earth that could have told the United States not to go back and to make sure that the people that did what they did to us didn't pay for it. I understand, and my heart goes out to anyone, especially the innocents during war. But what's the alternative? Should Israel have done nothing? Should they not try to get their people back?
Where does the economy fit into how you are viewing 2024? How do you feel about the economy?
I mean, I don't feel great. I was today even more shocked because sometimes I think I put my head in the sand with the economy. I don't like my car, so I was like, oh, maybe I'll just get a new car. And I saw these car rates, and I'm like, okay, I'm not getting a new car. Oh, can we start doing something about this? I don't.
Or the grocery store.
But I can eat less.
Yeah,
you know, that's the thing.
Yeah.
I can eat less. I can't make the car cheaper.
So when you hear the economy's getting better, do you buy that? Do you feel that?
I don't feel that, but I also don't know. I don't feel it's getting worse. It's stagnant. I think everything is very stagnant right now.
I agree.
Jackie, what do you make of the term Bidenomics? What does that mean to you? Does it resonate with you?
It resonates with me, but I'm more of those that like to kind of read political books and things like that. And when someone tells me someone does do something, I try to research it to make sure I understand exactly. But to piggyback on what she was saying, I think the economy is better. Never have there been so many job openings. And never has, well, not in my lifetime, has the unemployment rate have gone down as far. You know, people have to understand we're coming out of a pandemic, which during that time was totally shocking and strange to everyone because we never experienced that. For Biden to be able to get the chips to be made in the United States, chips that's not only for cars, but for laptops, you know, even some things that is used in the medical field. That's a big thing to me coming from a labor end of the business, because I've always felt as though things should be made here. Our economy, I think, is better than what it has been. Is everything affordable? No. Everything is going up quicker than our checks are.
Right.
Why do you think the president is struggling to make that case, given that you feel like he's doing a good job on the economy? Why is he struggling to convince Americans of that?
Because it's easy, just like when she says if someone wants to go get a new car and they see the price of the new car, they don't blame the president. They're not
For some reason, they're not going to blame
the president of Ford, Stellantis, or General Motors. They're going to blame the president of the United States. And I think a lot of that goes along with other items, such as, you know, now food is extremely high for us, you know. But then on the other hand, I'm happy that insulin has been come down to $35, what people can buy. So for everyone that can say something negative, I can also say something positive that has been done in the Biden administration.
Shelley, how do you feel about the economy? And when you hear the word Bidenomics, what does it mean to you?
This is what I can say about the economy. I think we live in a failing economy. I think it's really easy for people in political positions to say, well, we've created so many jobs. That's great, but most people I know have to work 2-3 jobs just to afford their rent or afford their mortgage. So I don't resonate when they say how many jobs that were created or how unemployment is. I want to know the quality of those jobs. I want to know if those jobs are able to sustain a middle-class life, if those jobs are also have health insurance. I know a lot of people that work 80 hours a week that cannot afford health insurance. Actually, most of the people I know that have health insurance only are awarded it because they're union members.
Yes.
So I think all day you can sit here and you can say we created all of these jobs. It doesn't mean anything. I want to talk about CEO to workers pay ratios. I want to talk about what you can afford on those jobs. If those jobs come with protections like pensions and health insurance after retirement or health insurance while you're working there. And I think those are the things we need to focus on more when we talk about an economy.
Ashley, how do you feel about the economy?
At the end of the day, I'm not really planning on ever owning a home the way things are looking. The bottom line issue is that we can look at how many more jobs have been created, and that's a fantastic thing, but you need to look at the average life for an American. We were fed all of this American exceptionalism in schools and everything, and then we get out into the real world, and it's just not what we were promised. We're told that we're going to be able to have like a house, a family with kids. None of my friends are having children, not because they're not interested, but because none of them they can't even think about the concept of having to feed another person. There's already a struggle to be able to have a job that people feel comfortable with and then be able to pay for all their expenses. We need to be able to have extra. We're not given any extra.
Terry, how do you feel about the economy?
Like Shelley, I don't feel great. I do understand that more jobs have been created, more jobs are available. When I graduate, I will be able to choose what path of social work I'm going to go down.
Shelley says she doesn't blame the president for that. Who do you blame?
America. I mean, we're a capitalist country, you know, consume, consume, consume. So, like, Shelley wants to go out and buy a car. And Shelley wants nice new things, as do I. I like shoes and purses and boots and whatnot. And I have 3 children, and they're very expensive, and they want and need things as well. I have a daughter with a profound learning disability, and public school wasn't cutting it for her. So I sent her to a tuition-based school, and I can no longer afford it. So I don't have a school for my child to go to. So we all have different struggles, and someone could look at me and say, well, you've got a kid that's going to a very expensive, you know, tuition-based school. Well, I've had to max out my student loans in order to send her there. I've had to drive, can't go out and get a new car, but I've had to, you know, I need a newer car. Can't do it because I need this tuition money because I need my daughter to have a quality education. And it comes down to your socioeconomic status, class, jobs, how much you're making, and I'm going into social work. So I think we all know I'm not going to be starting a job making $150,000 a year. It would be lovely, but that's just not going to happen. I have to work. My husband has to work. There was a time when one income was okay and you could do okay. Now you can't. Like you said, like you're not going to be able to afford a house. There's no affordable housing in this country. So that's a problem. There's not affordable housing, and then you have people that are, what are they doing? Where are they going?
You're saying, Terry, you blame America. Does anyone here blame the president, blame the past president for the economy?
I blame politics as a whole.
The
I blame
state of our
all
politics.
politicians. I think that many big businesses go left unchecked. I think that, politicians will go on stages and they'll say things like, don't price gouge. But there is no repercussions for those price gouging.
right.
So it's easy to say, stop doing that, right? Don't raise car prices by 30%. But if you don't punish them, and if you just allow them to do this without any regulation whatsoever, they're going to do this because this is how we operate. So I blame everybody because I think that there needs to be legislation that prevents this from happening because we know it's an issue. And I think by not addressing it as an issue and not, putting legislation through the House and through the Senate or just, trying to get support for those things, I think by not saying anything is just as bad as allowing it to happen by endorsing it. So I blame everybody. When we were talking about the chips being made in America, those used to be made in Kokomo, Indiana. So why weren't they anymore? Because of trade deals like NAFTA, right? So that comes back to politics.
Labor in other countries are a lot cheaper, but when are we as a society going to have accountability for that? If this sweater is going to cost me $20 because it cost someone in Cambodia 2 cents an hour to make, I should be mindful of that and say, you know what, I am not going to stand for this, but because we continue to feed that system, and a lot of us, we don't care. I have no idea where this was made, but I should care and I should know.
I don't think it's that we don't care. I mean, again, it comes down to also our pay, and can we afford to,
I can't afford anything that's built, made, created here. We can't do it. I mean, locally resourced, like fruits and vegetables, for example. If I can go to the grocery store and get a quart of strawberries for $3.99, when my farmer down the street is selling them for $6.99, I'm going to go to the grocery store. And it's
because it's a privilege to have the choice, to
it
be
is
able
a privilege.
to say
Some
it
people
is.
don't. Some people don't even have.
Yeah, people don't have that privilege,
I'm curious, when we look at the polls, a lot of voters say the economy is their top issue. I'm curious how you all feel about that. Raise your hand if the economy is the top issue for you, or is there another issue that's the top issue? For none of you.
Well, for me, of course, the top issue would lie within the racial equity in this country. I'm constantly seeing southern states that are making it more difficult for people to vote. The gerrymandering. Also, with me, also health care and a woman's right to choose.
That's my top issue.
That's your top issue.
That's my top issue,
so
body autonomy.
Angry that a man can make a decision on what's going on with my body. That should be left between me, my doctor, my family, and my God. It shouldn't have anyone else involved. And I was just kind of following a case in Texas about the woman who they denied the right to have an abortion, even though it's a medical reason. I'm angry that we have a Supreme Court justice system that is not accountable to the people. I don't think no one in politics should have a lifetime job. You should always be proving yourself to the people in order to get that job. So it's a lot of things that goes along with that. But those are some of the issues I'm passionate about.
So raise your hand if reproductive rights is your top issue.
Absolutely.
So
Mine is
it's
body autonomy. Body autonomy.
We have seen the issue of abortion motivate voters in an election here in Michigan, in special elections, in midterm elections. Do you think that it will motivate voters in the presidential election?
I do.
Yes.
It definitely could. It definitely could. And again, not just abortion, body autonomy. A person's right to be who they want to be, a trans person's right to be who they want to be, and do what you want with your body. Nobody should be able to tell you. I mean, what is next? Oh, I want your kidney. So I'm rich and I should be able to get your kidney, How
do you think the issue of reproductive rights, of body autonomy, how will that play into voters' decisions here in Michigan?
I think it's going to play the same way it did in midterm election. For one thing, women are a strong group of voters. And if you really want a woman to get up off their behind, tell them they can't do something.
that is
and with that, I do believe it's going to be a major issue, and if the Democrats do not make sure that they continue to talk about the fact that they're willing to make sure that women have body autonomy and a right to make decisions about their own bodies, then I think they can lose the election.
Jesse, how important is the issue of abortion to you and reproductive rights?
I mean, it's important to me, of course, but I'm unsure how that plays out on a wide scale right now. I know it has in the past. I just, you know, from my vantage point and the people that I've been around, it doesn't seem like it's getting as much traction in narrative.
What's the top issue for you?
I would say that it would be just protecting democracy in general, and then the economy behind that. That I didn't raise my hand because I do feel like I have a few. Top issues.
Protecting democracy, flesh that out. You say protecting democracy is your top issue.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that? What is your concern?
My concern is everybody's right to vote, that the American voice is heard. Even if that means that you're part of the minority, I want to make sure that everybody has a platform for their voice to be heard.
And what is the top issue for you?
It's pretty hard for me to choose a specific top issue. I feel like when you get to the core of it, America is just, it feels like we're building a really nice house on top of crumbling foundation. It feels like when we talk about the electoral system, land voting instead of people, it feels like we just are seeing a foundationally flawed system, and everything else just kind of piles on with how the system has become corrupt and how corporate it has become, how corporate backers are more powerful than the American people. It feels like we're in an owned government.
You raised your hand, Terry, when I asked if reproductive rights were your top issue. Why is that so important to you?
I don't want a man in my uterus. I don't want a man deciding what I can do with my body. An entity has no business in my fallopian tubes. Like, stay out. I don't get in your testicles. Stay out of it. It's between me, my doctor, and God. It is not for an entity to vote on. You don't get to decide what's good for me. You don't get to tell me. We are so interested and so invested in that baby until that baby is born. We don't think about 0 to 5. We don't think about early intervention. We don't think about that child's education. We don't think about supporting that mother.
Right.
We don't think about that kid once it comes out. That is your job to figure it out. Go apply for welfare. Go do what you got to do.
Until military age.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, then we think about it again.
Then we might think, oh, I need you, young person, to come fight an old man's war, a rich old man's war at that. We're not invested. We don't give a damn about childcare. We don't care about preschool. We are funding the wrong programs.
Yeah.
If you could come up with one word to describe President Biden, what would it be? And I'll start with you.
Tired.
Ashley, what word would you use to describe President Biden?
Just one word, he just seems out of it, honestly.
What one word would you use to describe President Biden?
Status quo.
Caring.
Honestly, it doesn't have to do with politics. Family. When I think of him, I think he cares a lot about his family. So.
And let's talk about the GOP frontrunner, former President Trump. What one word would you use to
Criminal.
Okay. Jackie, what one word would you use to describe Mr.
I could
Trump?
think of a few, but we probably wouldn't be able to air them. But the one word that I would say would be divisive. Very divisive.
Okay. Jesse?
Cowardly.
A con man.
What one word would you use to describe former President Trump?
I have to choose? I'm an English major. I have a list that's this long. If I had to choose one word, it would be manipulative.
And how concerned are you, and Shelley, let's start with you, how concerned are you about President Biden's age? Do you think he can serve another 4 years in office?
I am very concerned because it really ages you. I'm not saying 80-year-old people can't do things, but we've seen how bad the presidency ages people. And I think someone who's served so long deserves also some time with his family, some time with his grandkids.
He chose this, though. He knew
did choose it, so I'm not.
Years.
Yeah, you're right. I'm not.
You know.
Yeah, I shouldn't say I feel sorry. I am concerned that it's really going to take a toll, and will he be able to do it for 4 years?
Concerned.
You're not concerned?
No, absolutely
Why?
not. He signed up for this. He knew what he was getting into.
I'm not concerned for him. I'm concerned for the United States.
Oh, I'm not concerned for the United States. I believe he can carry this out. I believe he can carry this out another 4 years. He has thus far. He has a great vice president.
And that is very true.
And I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about what direction we're headed in, and I mean how we're going to recover from you know, some of the things that we're seeing now, like the empty promises, the disappointment, the talk of student loan. I have so much student loan. I could have owned several villas in France.
We have to have support behind the president, though.
Yeah. We do.
We have to get people in the House and
Yeah,
Senate.
what do you make of the
Those
fact he did
littler
move?
Elections count.
Yeah, he did
very
move
much.
to try to limit the amount of student loan debt that needed to be paid back in the near future. That was blocked by the Supreme Court. But do you still hold the president accountable?
Absolutely. You ran on that promise. A lot of us voted for you. A lot of us were counting on that. I mean, the way I look at it, the U.S. Department of Education, come and get it. I ain't got it. They're going to bury me with that booklet. I'm going to pay that until I am dead. I haven't even graduated yet, and I have several messages from the U.S. Department of Education. Terry, it's time to pay up. Well, thank you. Thank you so very much. I don't even want to know what that payment is going to look like. I don't have a job that is going to support this payment. So we can talk about why education is so expensive. We can talk about tuition rates. But the fact that President Biden made that promise to us, and I did get a lovely letter from, maybe he signed it himself, I do not know, saying, guess what? You're a winner. We are going to forgive X amount of dollars. And 2 minutes later, sorry, we were wrong. This isn't going to happen. And not only that, the amount was really insulting. It was a $20,000 or $30,000, which is a drop in the bucket. I mean, you might as well give it to the next person because it's really not going to help.
One of the things I would love to see is more corporations and more jobs do what some of the ones are doing. And that's, if you come work for me, I'll pay your loan off, your student loan.
Do you know how many hoops you have to jump through to do that? I could go work for a nonprofit organization and be employed, and some of that debt will be forgiven. But it is so complicated. There have been people that have done that and have done what the organization has asked them to do for years and years and years, only to come, okay, my term here is up, where's the money? Oh, you didn't follow X, Y, Z.
Well, that's the reason I'm saying it was something that I wish that our government would get involved with and make it more attractive, even if it's a matter of giving them some type of tax abatement. Make it more attractive to these companies to do that. Because if you want to attract the brightest and the best, that you should be willing to help them pay themselves out of debt. And if that means, well, I'm not going to pay you $40 an hour, I'm going to pay you $35 an hour, and then every year that you work for me, I'll put $5,000 towards your student debt. I think that's a way that we can handle it and we can help, but it's going to take our people in Washington be willing to kind of put the squeeze and make it attractive to big corporations in order to do that.
Ashley, I want to go back to the original question, which is, do you have concerns about President Biden's age, or do you feel confident he can serve another 4 years?
His age, to me, more is an indication of what the problems with him already are. I don't feel like there's an appetite for someone who is as stuck in the times as he is. He's a progressive, but not really a progressive for this era. It feels like we need someone who actually is, because originally I would have preferred most of the other candidates that we had in 2016. They almost unanimously were more radical on things like student debt and things like health care. And I feel like that's what got my fervor up in the first place. And I feel like everything since then has kind of been almost a letdown. It feels like we were all waiting for some big change, and that big change didn't come. And when I think about the Democratic Party right now, all I think about is staying the same. I don't think where he's at right now, I don't think his age and health is that much of a problem. I don't believe all of the videos where they'll show you every time he falls down or anything like that.
It's a good TikTok.
Right. I follow a lot too, you know.
Yeah.
Jesse, as someone who is undecided, do you care more about President Biden's age, former President Trump's age? He's only a few years younger. Or do you care more about Mr. Trump's legal troubles?
I don't care about their age at all. I care about their stances. I care what they're willing to do for the American people. So that's where I am. I think that the age argument is just another distraction in the same way that we've been distracted with other things in the past about gods and guns and gays.
What do you make?
Guns and gays.
What do you make
That's a good
of? What do you make of former President Trump's legal problems?
So obviously they're problematic, and I think again it gets confusing, and I think that they confuse the American public on purpose because you cannot keep up with that. I'm going to be honest, like with everything else going on in my life, I've just like kind of put it on the back burner. I don't even
for this morning.
I can't even remotely keep up with it, let alone what's factual, what's not factual, and then at the end of the day, it feels like a waste of time to even keep up with like the things I could be using that time for.
Jackie, what do you make of that? And what do you make of Mr. Trump's legal challenges? Can you keep up with them, or do they just fade into the background?
Well, no, I keep up with them. I find them very good reading. You know? But I don't think that any average person would be able to have the chances that this man has had.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's something that angers the people. It angers the fact that I had to go to court with my child for so-and-so, and they threw the book at him. You got a man that has done all these things, almost put us in a situation where we still don't know who has copies of those papers that was floating around. We don't know what top secret information has been given or let other people that are not friends of us have. So those are the things that kind of worry me. And I feel as though the man should have been in jail the day that he left out after he left out of office.
Shelley, how do you see Trump's legal problems?
I about the same as Jackie. I mean, I do read it. It does make good reading. But at the end of the day, I worry really about more of the top secret things and the fact that he gets chance after chance. And no average American would get that chance. And it's frightening to me that people don't see that and still want to vote for somebody like that.
Ashley, how about you?
I definitely agree that it feels kind of more like theater than anything. It feels like they want to pull it out whenever they decide that this is what they want to focus on. But at the end of the day, to look at all of those indictments, to look at, it doesn't, from what I understand, they're not even looking at if he's messed up, but how much at this point. So the people who don't believe it are not going to believe it in the end, no matter what. But it's just how things it's just how things have always went with Trump. He always he knows his people who are with him. He knows who he can get a little more past. He knows just how the millionaire game is played.
Terry?
Where do I begin? It's concerning, but I don't even think about Trump when I hear what he's. I'm not shocked. I'm not moved. What concerns me is that there is a base, and there is still unwavering support for a man who has been accused of so many things. And I know that he is going to find a way to finagle out of it because he has lawyers and money and power. Trump is untouchable. We might as well just not even go to court. Let's not waste the time in doing it and the resources. I mean, they had to shut down New York when he went to court, and they cleared out the building, and they didn't do what they did to they don't do what they do to everybody else. Like, he wasn't handcuffed. He wasn't put in a police car. Regular people, and he's not regular people, and this is how America operates.
I finally just want to ask you all about the divisions in this country. And Jackie, why don't you start us off? Have the partisan divisions impacted you personally, your family?
Yes.
What do you think about this moment we're in?
Well, you think about Martin Luther King and his dream that, we all could live together. And you want that to happen, but then reality slap you in the face that you can accidentally change lanes and someone call you the N-word, or you can go in a store and you're still being followed because they don't feel as though you have the money to buy the products in the store. Those type of things have been ongoing, and unless you're a person of color and you have experienced it, you may not really believe that it still happens, but it does. And it's concerning to me, the divisiveness. Now, one thing that I do have hope in is that a lot of our children are more blended. A lot of the people, the younger generation, they're throwing that old concept that you have to marry within your own race or you have to marry your own kind, and they're blending our children. So it's kind of hard for a racist grandmother that looks in the eyes of their grandchild and say, I hate you because you're half this or you're half that. So I'm hoping that the younger generation, I feel as though you guys got it right. I'm hoping that the younger generation is going to be a cure for racism one day, because we're going to be so blended till you really ain't going to be able to say nothing about a person. So that's my hopes. But right now, we still are very divisive.
Shelley, what do you make of the divisions in this country? Who do you blame, and how do you see a way out of it?
I definitely see a way out of it. And as Jackie said, I see it with the younger people. I see it with people in my circle and parents my age. We didn't allow people to be racist around our children. I did not allow it. I did not allow my children to hear racist words. Now, I didn't also want them to bury their heads in the sand either, because I know we have extreme privilege. I have extreme privilege, but I'm going to use that privilege then to help lift up someone. And that's what I've tried to teach my children, and I am really proud to see them, and they surround themselves with people like that. So hopefully it is the younger, and they're going to be the change they wish to see.
Jesse, how have the divisions in this country and the partisan divisions impacted you, impacted your family, your community?
Yeah, so I'm going to do a different spin on it, and I think it's so important what you guys said, too, about, the racial divisions. My family's very mixed, and my niece and nephew, and so I think that needs to be highlighted. However, I think it goes deeper than that for me. I think a huge division that I see that impacts me is wage division and class division, and I think that's something that needs to be brought to the attention just as much. And the fact that is a huge division that we have, and like we're talking about earlier, Trump's ability to just kind of get away with everything because of his status, right, or because of his money. And it feels like that a lot in our society, that if you have a certain status or you have a certain amount of money in your bank account, or how much control you have over how much money you can give politicians, that you're able to live and operate in a different society than everybody else. And you play by different rules, and you get, different advantages. And I think that is super problematic.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app, or follow us on social media.